Looks like we're live.
Okay, I think we are probably good to go. So I'll just go ahead and get us started. Hey everyone, hey Facebook. My name's Zach, and I'll be sort of keeping the train on the tracks for today's live tea. So if you don't know already, we do this interview series every single Tuesday at 1 p.m. Sorry, we're a little bit late. The tea took a little bit longer to brew than we expected, but we are here. So if you have any tea with you, go ahead and comment. What are you cooking up in your teapot? I've got my cup right here, my natural remedies. So you've seen two of us before, but I want to let everyone introduce themselves just real quickly. So maybe Angie, if you just want to say hi so we know who you are.
Hi everyone, welcome back to What's the Tea? I know you've seen my face before. So I'm Angie, nice seeing you. And today I have my green tea, and you always know I give you the benefits to it. So it helps with brain function, it helps with losing weight. So those are just some of the things. So hi everybody.
Hi everyone, I'm drinking cozy chamomile tea because it's really delicious. I probably added a little bit more sugar than I should, but here you go.
Should I share my tea? So I'm Carrie, and I am drinking decaf green tea, much like Angie, but I have a caffeine curfew that ends at 11 a.m. So got to go with the decaf so I can sleep later tonight.
Awesome. So you may not know this, but this is our team plus Lysandra as well, who is behind the scenes helping us out. So we are the community education team. And so I think we will start with Carrie, since she is actually our program manager. So Carrie, could you start us off with how you got involved in the program and how this all happened for you?
Sure, happy to. Thanks, Zach. So I have been with Suburban Family Shelter for almost 9 years, about 8.5 years at this point. And I came here through sort of a real windy path. I was an English major in college, did some freelance writing work and that sort of thing. I went to grad school and became a lawyer. So I worked in the legal field for several years. And then I don't want to go too long with my personal story, but at a certain point, I got some rough physical health diagnoses and kind of had a moment of self-reflection of like, am I really invested in the way I'm spending my day to day? Do I feel like there's meaning in my work? And all those questions kind of came together. And it was like, if I need all my energy to be focused on dealing with these sort of frustrating and scary health diagnoses, then I want to be sure that the energy I'm spending at work resonates with me and feels meaningful and feels like it contributes to something. And so that's kind of how I came to SSFS. Is they were located in my community, very close to my home. I'm a Homewood person, just like our administrative office is. And so I came in and I started working at that time, helping with special events and media. And so now 8.5 years later, I've had like several different hats on at the agency. While I was doing that work, I moved into working in our partner abuse intervention program, which some of you regular T viewers may remember listening to Vidal's story when he shared about working as a PAPE facilitator. He was one of my co-facilitators, and I really loved working in that program. We worked with men and women who use violence with intimate partners, and learned so much from our participants and from my co-facilitators, Vidal among them, that you've already met, many folks you haven't met yet. Maybe they'll come on a future tea. And then I think it's 2017 is when I got the opportunity to move into a management role with the community education program. And that has been such a fascinating and engaging time. I love having our team. Our team gives me life. You guys are so creative and dedicated, and just have such integrity about how you do your work. That's been fantastic for me. It's been a learning curve for sure, because I had managed programs, managed projects before, but I had never worked with managing people. And I venture to say I learn as much from you guys as anybody else that I work with. I got into our SSFS's, that's a mouthful, management team at the same time as Kaisha did. So again, regular T viewers will remember her from an interview a few weeks back with Lysandra from our team. She and I started in our management team at the same time, and I have so appreciated having her as an ally sort of in the same timeline as me, just to run questions past each other. And many on our management team do the same. But you know, there's something special about we came in at the same time and we're moving ahead on the same timeline. So that's kind of how I came to SSFS. And like I say, a little curvy road that got me where I am now with you guys.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Carrie, for sharing. So
Yeah.
I do want to talk a little bit about our program. So a lot of people, they mostly know us for our school-based violence prevention work that we do, which will be actually the main focus. But before we do that, I also want to say that we do also do presentations for churches, for community groups, police departments, and hospitals. So if that interests you, you could always let us know that. But I do want to look to Angie and Celeste here to tell us a little bit about why do you think what we do is important in the schools. And after that, we'll talk about kind of what's upcoming for the fall, because it's going to look a little bit different than it ever has. So maybe we can get some stories going about our work.
You can go ahead, Angie.
Well, I would say that our job is very important. You know, it's like when you grow your plants and your vegetables, you know, you have to put that seed in and you have to watch it grow. And so when we start with the pre-K and when we start with kindergarten, we're planting that seed so that hopefully as they are growing and, you know, moving up into the grade levels, they see us and it sticks with them more. I have a lot of different stories. I know, speaking for myself, it seems that a lot of teens especially like to speak with me and, you know, disclosing things. But the one thing that I know our job is very important is when I was doing a presentation, and after the presentation, the young lady explained to me, as well as the classroom, that parents are not talking about teen dating violence in the household. And we all know the first relationship that you see is in the household. 70% of abusers grew up in a household where there was abuse. So right there, that just tells you how important that seed is to plant and instill into your children as they grow older. And she just basically explained, hey, you know, I've been in a lot of these relationships, but I didn't know that it was called teen dating violence. I didn't know that it was called domestic violence. I did not know that this is what it was. And I didn't know that verbal and emotional abuse was considered to be domestic violence, you know, and I've realized that a lot of individuals in the school setting, they don't think that you being called out your name or being disrespected or even cheated on is considered to be a part of the cycle of violence. So it's so many different stories, but right there, that let me know that this young lady is a senior in high school and has never been told about teen dating violence. And unfortunately, she experienced numerous of relationships as such. So right there, I knew that what we are doing is definitely making a difference with the individuals that we encounter.
Celeste, we got you on mute, so.
I'm sorry about that. I was saying that I agree. I couldn't have said any better. I think that it's really just the power of planting a seed here. And that's really what we're doing. We're planting a seed. I think it's really important how we're helping this seed grow. When we do see the same students one year and then the next year, there's some students we see, we watch them grow. And so being able to hear, getting the same message or similar messages over and over consecutively does help them remember the information. And a lot of them, like Angie said, aren't hearing this at home. Some of them aren't hearing this at school. So they really need this person to tell them, talk to them about violence, talk to them about teen dating violence. A lot of these students, we call this prevention, but a lot of these students are already dating. They have already experienced some dating violence. And to have just that somebody that they can talk to, I believe that's really important. So I really like what we do. I think that it's very effective. Like Jenny mentioned in one of our episodes, we still have more to go. We do want to include prevention in every single program. So I know Carrie's going to talk a little bit about that.
And Celeste, while we still have you here, could you tell us, I know you said sometimes we see kids year in and year out, and I know specifically that's one of our main goals when we go to classrooms, but could you tell us about how that looks for our BRO program, which is basically groups for boys 5th grade through 8th grade?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so our BRO program is an 8-week program, and we see a group of boys who have been exposed to violence. And so I actually do have a pretty good story that I'll never forget. It was me and Zach. We had a BRO group at a certain school, and so we went and saw a sixth grade group, and we worked with them for 8 weeks, and we come back to the same school the following year to see a 7th and 8th grade group. So we see one of the same students that we had seen from 6th grade. And in 6th grade, this student had a lot to work on. You can tell that he had been exposed to violence. He was having a hard time dealing with his actions, with his emotions. But when we saw him in 7th grade, he was a whole different person. And I truly believe that it was because of us. It might have been other factors as well, but I truly believe that we made a difference because we did see the difference in the last group. So having him in this BRO group really helped because he was able to guide everyone else. And so that was just very eye-opening to me. It inspired me, it motivated me to continue doing what we do.
Yeah, absolutely. We don't expect someone to drastically change their whole life in 8 weeks, but if we can sort of close in the boundaries a little bit of, where their tendencies and behaviors start to go, that's
exactly.
huge. That'll put them on a path to keep going.
Yeah.
And
so we planted that seed, and that seed did blossom there.
Absolutely. And I
love the dedication to the metaphor.
I know, right?
Yeah, I love it. Listening to y'all, several things about your work really stand out to me. And one thing is that your violence prevention education presentations provide what folks in our field tend to call protective factors for the youths that you work with. And there's in prevention, traditional prevention sort of constructs, when we talk about this kind of education, we're often looking at what risk factors for experiencing violence or being exposed to violence or even choosing to engage in violence does a person, in this context, a young person, have in their life, and what protective factors do exist in that person's life that can mitigate that risk, right? And your prevention presentations really are one of the strongest protective factors I know of. And so I'm very mindful these days with the pandemic and uncertainty around how school will look for students in the fall semester and in the coming school year, whether you'll be able to provide that protective factor for young people. If students are engaging in e-learning or virtual learning or homeschooling, or they're in person in school facilities, how can we as a program anticipate that and design some things so that you can provide that protective factor? Because it's not just the education. Listening to it really stands out that it's your personal connection with students that is so valuable. It's otherwise you wouldn't have the stories you just shared, right? If you weren't emotionally available and a safe person for a student to come up to and say, hey, I'm experiencing something, or to say, hey, this is the first time I've ever heard about teen dating violence. We don't talk about this in my home. It's the education itself that provides some protective factor, but it's also your ability and willingness to engage with young people in a caring way, to say, your experience matters. I want you to be safe. And what you tell me, I will hold confidential, and I'll do my best to put you in contact with supports that you may need. And so I know that you all have been working very hard this summer to anticipate what schooling may look like, what students may need, and to be really creative about how you share this violence prevention education with students so that they don't lose that protective factor in their lives.
I was gonna say that was really important, Carrie. You know, that's my favorite topic, the risk and protective factors. So yes, that's very important what you talked about.
Yeah, and I've seen it. As you were talking in the beginning, Angie, I was thinking a few times where in the middle of the hustle of the school year, you know, you might be there for one day and then I come in and substitute basically for day two, and they're asking, well, where's Angie? But what they're really asking is, or what they're really saying is, I wanted to talk to her about something. So, you know, over time we sort of pick those things up once we get, you know, once we see the pattern there. So it is super important.
That's such an empathetic way of listening to students, Zach, that you see what they're really saying. It's not just where's Angie, it's I trust Angie from yesterday and there's something on my mind. You know, they may come by the end of the presentation that you're giving, they may come to trust you as well, but they're telling you right at the outset, without saying it, I have a thing and I could have told it to Angie. Can I tell it to you? And, you know, then that gives you that opportunity to demonstrate you're also trustworthy. You also believe they deserve to be safe, you know? So I really appreciate that's something I see in all of you in the work you do, is that you do your best to listen to what's really being said by a young person, what's really being asked, and finding creative ways and caring ways to let them know you're there for them.
Absolutely. So do we want to transition and talk a little bit about what's up and coming for everyone? Maybe if someone works in a school, they may be interested as how we're going to handle going forward. So I will say, as far as I know, we will do presentations as we have been, but we're assuming that it's most likely not going to be the number one option for everyone. As you know, outsiders, we don't work in the school, so that's just extra people going in. But we are going to offer the virtual option, which will be sort of what we're doing now on Teams, where we can teach a lesson, share our screen, interact with everyone.
Sorry, looks like our technical difficulties have not ended. Zach, you're having a little bit of a delay in your feed.
And
Yeah, I was wondering if it was just me hearing it, but
recorded videos as well. So would anyone like to some of those resources we're going to give everyone?
Yeah,
So Zach,
Basically,
you
just
experienced,
we don't think that in person is. Can you all hear me now?
Yeah,
now we can, but we missed pretty much your whole message. Like, look at Angie and I doing our thing.
Yeah.
We missed
Yeah,
pretty much your whole message there. You had a little bit of a lag. So maybe if you could repeat, or if you start having the lag again, Angie or Celeste, would you mind stepping in?
Yeah, and I know before then, Zach, so you don't have to repeat yourself. I know that you were just explaining that due to the pandemic, due to the COVID-19, we are assuming that as a team, things will not be back to normal in August, as far as us physically being in the school with the students. So I know Zach was just explaining right now, you know, we're definitely going to be providing our presentations 9 times out of 10, it might be virtually because we know that everyone needs to be safe with all the protocols of the state itself. So yeah, the team has really been working hard to figure out how we can still be very effective with our prevention and planting those seeds for this year.
yeah, so we are building a menu for this, for you all to choose whatever works best. Whatever it is that you need. We do prevention presentations from kindergarten all the way up to high school. And we also do domestic violence 101s. We do all types of presentations, basically whatever you need. We also have that miscellaneous category. So we're planning on doing some pre-recorded presentations for those who can't do live, but hopefully we do get the chance to go live and actually see the students and be able to somehow still form some type of connection with them, because as we discussed, that is very important.
And I know that as a team, we all have been really on board to know that services for the students at this time is more important than ever, due to the fact that everyone is quarantining and being at home. And for those who are aware of domestic violence, we know that the lethality really rises during that time. So it's really important. We really miss the students. We're actually in a process right now of trying to even figure out how to form a street team for the schools, so that'll be coming in the works of maybe some teachers or social workers hearing from us to try to correlate a team within the schools to pass out different materials of family violence and teen dating violence, so that the students in the schools know we're not there physically, but we're thinking about you and we're getting these resources to you, and anything that you need is still available to you no matter what.
I'm so glad you highlighted that, Angie, because something that stands out to me is that young people are agents of change. They are, I think we've seen that in so many ways, in particular over the last several years in news items and that sort of thing. Young people are resilient, intelligent, talented, creative, and they can really be agents of education and change and prevention in their own spaces, right? And so I am very excited about the idea of working to build collaborations of students to themselves advocate for violence-free spaces, violence-free relationships, friendships, dating relationships, homes, because I think we've seen so clearly in so many contexts that is a really effective way that change can happen, is when people just have ownership over what they want out of their own experiences. And I know that listening to the stories you shared about the young man who came back the year later and was a very different young man, that's your influence, that's the education you gave him, but those changes are his. That's his work, that he took in what you gave him and, started behaving differently, making choices that were kinder, more respectful, took into account his impact on others in his circle, which to me, again, just highlights how much you can do when you plant that seed and then it gets watered and it gets nurtured and it gets enough sun. And you all know I love a metaphor, so I'm gonna stick with it. And thank you, Celeste, for highlighting the other presentations we do. I was making fun of myself a little earlier because what I keep hearing when it's our violence prevention education curriculum, but it's also our domestic violence presentations and community presentations and all the ways that our program, your program, interacts with the community, engages with the community. That the thing I was making fun of myself is I kept seeing the NBC thing, the more you know, the big firecracker thing that goes across with the rainbow, because I do believe, and I see in the work you all do, the work we do together, that with any education and that little bit of more, there's an element of prevention, because you now have more tools, more information, more insight into how you make your choices and the potential impact of those choices on others, right? Is that going to be a violent impact? Is it going to be a damaging impact? And how can I make a choice in whatever moment, in whatever dynamic with another person that is nonviolent, that is peaceful, that de-escalates? So I really appreciate that you brought that in, Celeste, because even if we don't call it prevention, there's that element there.
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to say another thing, you all, that we forgot that we've been working on is trying to update the website with our resources, so that's something else that we've been doing, because we know that if we are not able to physically be in the schools, then we're not able to physically pass on our resources, so for teachers and students that are looking to gather resources and different information, we are in the process of updating our website for that as well. So please stay on the lookout for that. That's really exciting. I don't know about you all, but I'm excited for that.
Yeah, it is exciting. If anybody is interested in any of these resources, worksheets that we have, presentations, feel free to comment, feel free to message us or email us. We definitely will be there to respond. And I definitely agree with everything Carrie was saying. Again, to the metaphor of planting a seed, we do plant seeds everywhere we go, not just schools. If we do a presentation for a church, we're spreading the word. We can do presentations to basically anyone. We can go to a police department. So we do love that power of planting a seed.
So in summary, we're going to be flexible. We're going to be ready. We're going to be ready to roll when the fall comes.
Thank you for pulling all the threads together, Zach.
I know, right?
Much appreciated.
So if anyone's on Facebook and you want to ask some questions about upcoming fall, go ahead and start getting those in now. I think I'll just ask one last question for our team here before we do move on and ask Lysandra to help us out. So last week we talked a lot with what are the next 40 years going to look like. I don't know about 40 years, but any thoughts on how this is going to change? Because when I started, it already looks different, and that was 2 years ago or so. What's it going to keep looking like?
I have thoughts.
I'm like, Carrie.
I remember a couple weeks ago, Angie interviewed Jennifer, and Jennifer was talking about that she sees prevention as a very forward part of the evolution of our mission. And I find that really exciting because, here today we've been talking a lot about young people, but risk factors and protective factors exist in everybody's life and everybody's world, no matter your age. And so the idea of prevention and how we can bolster protective factors for folks isn't tied to education and the community education department. So what I anticipate for our agency is that all of our programs, all of our services will engage in that process of where can we weave prevention and protective factors and acknowledgement of risk factors into how we provide our services. I can't read Jennifer's mind. And so I hope that in a future T episode, she can speak to this a little bit more, what her vision is for the agency. But that's kind of where my mind went listening to her a couple weeks ago. And where can we also acknowledge how prevention is already a part of services as they exist now? We might not call something we do prevention, but does it have an element of that? Does it have that impact on people? So that's definitely something I am excited for in our next 40 years. I know we're closing out our birthday month this week, but it's been on my mind since she talked about that in that T episode and anticipating how that's going to become a part of our work in a very forward, transparent way.
Awesome. So Lysandra, if you're in the background with us, do we have questions?
Yes, we have some questions. So the first question is, what does BRO stand for?
BRO stands for Boys Respecting Others. And I'll repeat it because we have a question for it. It's an 8-week program typically in schools, like if it's a junior high, we'll do it for one class period. It's 8 weeks, hopefully consecutively, for boys 5th grade through 8th grade. And we basically teach a different theme each week through activities and a little bit of lessons as well, but we're gearing more towards activity-based trainings for like respect, taking responsibility, respecting others, respecting the home and community. Am I forgetting anything on that one?
You got them though. Accountability, just different things. But you did a great overview.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree. And I think like we said with prevention in general, with BRO itself, a big, very important aspect of it is that relationship that we build. And so we do these programs with a female and a male facilitator, so that these students are able to see that relationship between a man and a woman and how it's like to get along and work together towards a goal. And so that's also very important. That's something that usually on the first week, we don't have that relationship yet. They're usually sitting there saying, I don't want to be here. But, slowly down the line, they do start forming that relationship. And by the 8th week, it hasn't failed. They don't want this session. They don't want this program to be over. They want us to come back. And that's how we know we've made a difference.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, thank you. So another question that we have from Leah is, how many districts do you work with and how do you make connections with new schools or districts?
That's a great question. Do we have the number? I don't know if we have the number as to how many districts we work with.
It's it's in the roughly 30 area. I don't know what this motion is. It's in the roughly 30 area, a little less, maybe a little more. It varies year to year, but as far as the outreach process goes, I defer to you guys because this is really a big piece of your work.
Yes,
so-
that's okay. Good. I was just gonna say, as far as the region that we reach, we really go across the south suburbs. Now that we do have our partnering office in the city of Chicago, specifically us with prevention, we have not been to the city of Chicago within the schools to do presentations, but that's what we have Lysandra for, where she does an amazing job by building these relationships with the Ashburn community. So as of now, we are all throughout the south suburbs.
Yeah, so we do try and stay a little local. If there's anybody who's not within our area, we definitely are going to recommend a different agency that it can be similar. But as far as reaching out to schools, there's a lot of schools that we've already built a relationship with, and we've been going to these same schools year after year. There's also those schools that we haven't built a relationship with yet. We continue to try every year, and basically we shoot them an email, we call them, we ask them, who can we talk to about possibly doing these presentations? And sometimes we'll drive to the school and make sure that they get our brochure, make sure they get our information, and hope that they do call us back. We do mention to all these schools that these services are free. Our presentations are free, they're free of charge. Donations are always accepted, of course. That's with any of our always. And we do have certain schools that do, donate every year after every presentation that we do. And so thank you for helping us out. But yeah, that's basically what we do.
That's really important though, that we are free, and a lot of people don't think that, and especially now with the pandemic and everything, just financially that's going on in the world, we are free. Like, we still will come and present that to you, because like we said, we like to plant seeds everywhere. So.
Okay, so that's a great point. And a question that we have that is related is, are the programs or presentations only provided in school settings?
I can speak a little to that. Our violence prevention curriculum is currently geared to students kindergarten through 12th. Sometimes a pre-K and sometimes a secondary will do, but the prevention curriculum itself is geared to specific age groups. So the educators have a program called Hands Are Not for Hitting, just for the younger folks. And in that program, they're examining sounds really, heavy. They're looking at emotions and feelings and helping young folks understand what emotions feel like, what they are, helping them identify them, put words to them, helping them understand how their hands can be helpful to other people, whether they can give a hug or they can help do a chore or they can give a pat on the back. And really helping young people understand that their choices connect to how other people feel and whether those people feel safe with them. They work on also family violence presentations, which is for the next sort of age group. And this is looking at how everybody in your family, everybody in your home has a right to be safe. It helps young people in that age group identify who is a safe person that you can talk to if there's violence in your home, if there's violence in your family. What can you do to keep yourself safe if there's a violent incident in your home? Where can you go? Where ought you to go? And again, it's just really bolstering that empowerment of, in a situation where you feel in danger or someone you love is in danger of being harmed, you can make choices that help you be safe and potentially help the situation de-escalate without getting directly involved. And then they move into their teen dating violence curriculum, which is for 6th through 12th. And they approach those a little bit differently with junior high and high school. But here again, as Celeste really clearly pointed out, lots of these young people are already in dating relationships, and some of those relationships, many maybe, involve dating violence. And so here we're blending prevention and intervention. you might be already experiencing this. And if you are, here's some ways we can educate you that you can find support. A lot of this, again, centers into tapping into their own wisdom of how to figure out who's safe to talk to and ask for help from, right? We can't come in, our educators will never come in and say, here's who you should talk to, call the police. Here's who you should talk to, tell your teacher. They'll come in and help them tap into, like I said, their own wisdom of how do you identify who is trustworthy with your personal information in your own life, because that's going to be different from every young person that they work with. And then the other presentations that Celeste talked about, we internally call them like a DV 101 or a DV dynamics, but these are presentations that we can give in lots of contexts and often what we would use in secondary education settings. And they really give people the fundamentals of domestic violence, intimate partner violence. What are some of the dynamics that are typical? What are some of the types of abuse that we see regularly? You know, what are some of the typical patterns? I remember hearing Angela touch on the cycle of violence, right? So it really gives people a good overview of what domestic violence is all about. And again, there's always the emphasis on everyone deserves to be safe and no one has a right to harm anybody else. So no matter what the piece of education is, or the person or people or group that wants to engage with our education will find a way to give you a presentation that works for your needs. No matter if you're in schools or anywhere else, virtually, whatever it is.
That's what I was gonna say too, because there have been a lot of different, whether it's organizations or agencies or even groups of students that has scheduled presentations with us after school hours. Of course, now if the students and they're trying to go through the school, of course, they would need approval, they would need a chaperone and things like that. But there has been multiple different presentations that we have conducted at the library, or we have went to the Girl Scout building and conducted it with them. So it's not always in the school settings, but primarily it is.
Yeah, as Carrie mentioned, we do try and stick with a certain age group. So we're not going to go do a presentation for a first grader and an eighth grader at the same time, because the content is a little bit different because of their age. So that's primarily the reason why we do go to schools, is because they already have them split up by ages. If we do happen to go to a summer camp, two of us might go at the same time and split the kids into two groups so that we're not seeing various age groups. But we definitely don't just do schools, especially in the summertime where most students are not in school. We do try to get to as many different organizations as we can, whether it's a church, whether it's a summer program. Like Angie said, we go and talk to the Girl Scouts. So basically, we try and do as much as we can.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. Thank you so much
No problem.
for explaining that. Another question that is connected is about how many students roughly do you present to each year?
Ooh. Okay, it's that time.
These are questions we definitely have documented. So if we do go and search that, I know the number is in the thousands, but this is something that we'll have to comment back on after we do get that number.
Yes, I definitely was trying to think of our staff from karaoke that's been updated. So
we did not come prepared with numbers, unfortunately, but as Celeste said, we can tap into our record keeping and comment back on this, on the recording, and let you all know how many students we typically serve in a year.
Okay,
I can say we have like over 120, 130 in a single day. If that gives you an idea of like what a full 7-hour day would be.
Yeah, it really just depends, because every school is different. Sometimes all three of us go to one school and present at the same time. Sometimes it's just one. So it really does depend.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Our last question is from Chris. She's asking, do you find that students follow up with you for services after the presentation?
I've had that happen numerous of times. I've had that happen to where actually I had a young lady come up to me and ask me to help her fill out her court documents with her. I have had individuals email me asking for my card and then end up emailing, asking for services or disclosing certain situations that they've been through. So personally, in regards to myself, I get that a lot when people come up to me before or after I've had to pull students out the classroom due to emotional things as well during a presentation. So yes, me personally, I get that a lot.
Yeah, I've had people, ask me for the hotline number, but I can't relate with Angie. Haven't had somebody actually that I know of go and get services right after the presentation.
Okay. Okay, awesome. And those are, I'm sorry, Carrie.
I was just going to say our program's practice is if a student discloses something that we will let them know what of our agency's services are available to them. And typically we would also connect to them with a social worker at their school in case there were in-school options that they could use for support. But I know this has been said in multiple episodes of Tea is that if someone chooses to engage in services, that confidentiality is extremely important and tight. And we just wouldn't know, we wouldn't ever hear the end of that story unless somebody on their own reached out to the team or somebody in particular in the future and said, hey, I followed up and I got counseling and it was terrific, or whatever it is that they would choose to share. But otherwise, the team doesn't get to know. And so there is often that open question in their head of, I wonder if that person ever went ahead and got counseling. I wonder if that person was able to connect with the court advocacy program and get an order of protection, because we're not, and nor should we be privy to that information. Our role is to give the education and to facilitate that connection where somebody may benefit from it. So I know that sometimes it can be emotionally difficult for our team of wondering whether somebody was able to get what they were looking for with us.
Yes, very well said, Carrie.
No, I'm sorry, Celeste, you could go ahead. I was just going to say that was definitely important because I know that we're not, of course, we are not the counseling department. We do not have direct contact with clients. But unfortunately, well, I would say fortunately, because hopefully they do get the services they need. But unfortunately, we do deal with a lot of disclosures in the school. Yeah. And it could be, like Carrie said, very emotional when someone comes and discloses to you and then you don't know if they ever receive services, if they're safe, if they're okay, because we have to furthermore pass that along to the school for them to handle that for confidentiality purposes.
So we have a follow-up question to this point, and it's, are children and teens able or eligible to receive help from South Suburban Family Shelter?
Yes, absolutely. Young people 12 and older can have access without parental consent to a certain number of counseling sessions. So if that was a concern for any young person that they for some reason did not want to let their parents know they were seeking help, they can do that on their own volition. The other program that I know has been referenced in some other episodes of Tea is our Safe from the Start program, which goes a little further than exclusively domestic violence experiences, and any child 5 and under, am I saying that right, team?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
good.
Mm-hmm.
Any child 5 and under who has experienced violence, like a traumatic situation. I know that somebody spoke to this recently and said, an attack by a dog they had seen, a family home burning down. Any type of violent or traumatic experience would make that child and their family eligible for the Safe from the Start program, where they could access all kinds of services. So yeah, one thing that I know our team is really incorporating quite a bit is the concept of consent into their education. And to me, the fact that young people can access services on their own agency is so tied to the concept of consent that they don't always have to get that permission slip, so to speak, to be able to get support that's offered by our agency. That we're very, as an agency, we're very cognizant of the fact that young people, their circumstances are very individual as with adults. and what works for one young person may not work for the next. And so we do our best to let young people know that there are a variety of ways that they can engage with services that they can choose from to make a choice that fits their circumstances best.
Okay. So thank you for that. We have no more questions, but we do have a comment. And the comment is, you guys can be a beacon of help to a child who's experiencing domestic violence. Your contact is so valuable and meaningful. So that was our last comment.
Thank you for that comment.
Yeah. That's
But
your
you know
work,
I'm
you guys.
emotional.
I know. That's your work, you guys. I'm really glad that somebody commented that because it's very true of what you do.
Well, thank you. Any last closing thoughts from the team?
I don't think so.
All right. Well, I'd like to thank everyone who's been following along through the month of July. It is our 40th anniversary month. We're trying to get 40 for 40, so 40 monthly donors for our 40th anniversary. So if you're interested, just let us know. Like, comment, and share. We'll be back next Tuesday at 1 o'clock. So see you all then. Thank you. Happy birthday, Mom. And
Happy birthday.
bye.
Bye.
Mom.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.